Anyway, I thought I would just pop on here, and I've been spending most of the day calling references for one of my subcontractors, and I figured that it might be valuable information for you guys to know how to hire a subcontractor. One thing that you should do is when you're looking at hiring a contractor, whether it be a general contractor or a subcontractor, and the difference is a general contractor usually manages all the subcontractors, and the subcontractors, if you think of it as like all the little trades, and the general contractor would be like the manager. So you do not have to hire a general contractor if you're working on your own house. You need to check out what the building codes are and what the requirements are in your area, but you could actually be your own general contractor as long as you're planning on living in the house for 5 years. At least that's the law in North Carolina. But here's the kicker. You do want to make sure if you're hiring subcontractors that they are licensed and they are insured, but I'm going to get into that a little bit in a minute. All right, so the first thing is you want to get at least 3 referrals, at least 3 subcontractors or 3 contractors that you're considering. Ask your friends. One of the really great places that I've been using a lot is if you're on Nextdoor. Do you know about Nextdoor.com? There's usually one for each neighborhood. That's a great place because you can go on there and ask and say, hey, I need a drywall or a painter. Anybody having references? But once I get that person's name, I don't just hire them. I do a lot of due diligence, and I do a lot of checking in on that person. I may go a little overkill, but honestly, I don't want to get taken for a ride. So first thing I do is I Google that person's name and I see if there's any information on the web about that person. I look on the Better Business Bureau. I try to see, are there any negative reviews, things like that. If I see one negative review, I'm not going to necessarily strike them off my list. But if there's a ton of them, then I'm definitely going to say I'm not going to hire that person. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so get your 3 people or 3 contractors, and then you need to ask each one of them for 3 references, and you tell them you want references within the last 3 to 6 months, because that's going to be like the truest situation. Like that's going to be the best references, people that kind of have worked with that contractor now, because that person may have done awesome work 2 years ago, but maybe they've got things going on in their life right now, and so they're kind of flaking right now. So good idea to get references. Tell them, hey, can you send me 3 references within the last 3 to 6 months? But I have a bunch of questions that I'm asking. And the reason why I'm going to give you these questions is because I think it's so important to ask a ton of questions, not just, so how was the work? Because if you can really drill down into a lot of specifics, you might get some more information that you wouldn't get if you just said, oh, how did you like that person, or how was their work? All right, so that is the first question that I say, hey, were you happy with the job that the contractor did? But then I ask, did the contractor hire any tradespeople to help complete the project? If it's a general contractor, they probably have hired tradespeople. And then I want to know, did the contractor, what was the quality of the tradespeople's work? I want to move on to my absolute favorite question, okay? And it's funny how people answer this, but my absolute favorite question is, were there any errors or mistakes that happened during the job? And if so, how were they handled? And here's the deal. I want to hear that there were mistakes, and I want to hear how they were handled, because human beings make mistakes. It happens. Every single contractor, no matter how good they are, is going to make a mistake at one point. But I want to know, how good is that contractor about making it right? So that's my favorite question. And I just got off the phone with a reference, and he was telling me a whole story about how the contractor had accidentally broken a window pane, and he said immediately the next day they were there, and it was just a single pane, so they were able to replace it. He said another job, something was broken, and they just took it out of the bill. But he said he doesn't remember because it was not a big deal, and he was really happy that how the contractor covered and made good on that. Okay, here's a good question. What was the condition of the job site after they were done? Was it left kind of half finished? Was it left a mess? Was everything cleaned up? Depending on the trade, you kind of have to have a little bit of leeway on that one. But for the most part, like, you want to make sure that the reference was happy, that even after the contractor left. Okay. Was there anything that you wish that he or she had done better? That's a key where you want to try to pinpoint, was the work done quality work? Was it quality craftsmanship, or were there kind of some issues that they weren't happy with? Okay. Was a contractor upfront about any cost changes? This is huge because when you hire a contractor, things will happen. Things do change. Maybe you've changed your mind. Maybe something came up and prices changed, whatever. Maybe the job scope changed. It's important that a good contractor, is giving you information along the way. Hey, listen, that's fine, but this is going to cost a little bit more. You okay with that? Instead of at the end, when you get the bill, you being shocked and surprised. Oh, excuse me. Okay. How accurate was the contractor's time frame? This is key too. You want to know if the contractor said it's going to take me 2 weeks. Did it take 2 weeks? Did it take 3 weeks? And also, how was the contractor with showing up? Were they always on time, or did they communicate with you if they were going to be late or had to push your job back? Things like that. You want to kind of get, flesh out and feel, is that person's are they good at communicating on their timing? Okay, this is a really good question too. Did the contractor pull any permits? And I really am looking for contractors who are doing it by the book, by the law, because it's important to have permits, pulled on a project that really needs permits. Be wary if anyone says, oh, you don't need a permit for this. I would check around and also ask each of the contractors that you're interviewing, ask them all the same questions. Do you need to pull a permit? Because actually permits are going to help you. They're going to help protect your house and make sure that the work was done properly, and that when you go to resell, that you can sell your house because all the permits were applied for. And, if they did pull a permit, how were the inspections? Did they pass right away? Were there any issues? How were those handled? So have you needed a contractor to come back and fix anything? If so, how timely was that repair? Usually at the end of a job, there's always a punch list of things that need to be fixed. That is so normal. But I want to know, was the contractor good? Did they come back in a timely manner and make good on that? I did have a landscape contractor once who, he did great work while he was here, but once he was done, he was gone. Like, he would not return my calls, and I had a punch list of stuff that he was supposed to just finish up on. And the stupid thing is that I paid him the full amount. You should never do that until your punch list is done. We usually reserve about 10% and say, listen, hey, happy to pay you, but I'm holding this 10% until the job is complete and your punch list is done. So I totally learned from that experience. Was the contractor open to design preferences? This would really be important if you are doing a kitchen or a bath. You want a contractor who is going to make you happy and recognize that you have your own style, and they're not going to bully you about their own style, or they're going to bully you because they're getting some awesome deal on some certain tile. So, find out if they're open to design preferences and ask the references if they had any experience with that. And then I always leave this last, question, which is, is there anything that you want to add? Any suggestions you have for me moving forward with this contractor? And that really leaves it open for them to add anything else that I may not have asked. Okay, so once you guys have narrowed down your contractor, check the Better Business Bureau, checked all the references. The things that you want to get from them are, you want to get a copy of their general liability insurance, and you want to make sure that your information is in the certificate holder field, okay? And you can call their insurance company, also make sure that the dates, that it's not expired. You also want to make sure you have their workman's comp insurance, a copy of that. You want to make sure that they're licensed contractors, especially if it's a general contractor or an electrician or a plumber. And most of that information is available online, or you can call your city and ask them, hey, where can I check licenses? And they'll usually put you in with the appropriate information for looking that up. And yeah, because don't just ask them for their license number. Make sure you follow up and make sure that their license is actually valid and still hasn't been expired or anything. Okay, and then you also want those policies in hand before the work starts. You want to make sure that any of the tradespeople that they hire, especially if it's a general contractor hiring an electrician and a plumber, that you also have copies of their insurance. Make sure that they're insured also. You don't want anyone on your property who's not insured, because you do not want someone to break a leg and sue you. The other thing that you want to do is you can ask for a lien waiver, and what that does is that's going to cover you if the contractor doesn't pay his employees. They can come back to you and sue you and put a lien against your house. So you want to make sure you get a lien waiver too. If the contractor is not willing to do that, you probably want to walk away, because any contractor that does good work is more than happy to provide that. And hey, for me, this is a big red flag. If the contractor that you're interviewing is really kind of iffy and trying to sidestep around any of these questions that you have for them, especially their insurance, and then also their license, you need to just say goodbye, because here's why. I have a friend who hired a contractor to do work in her house. He renovated 2 bathrooms, okay, and he did okay work, but then a year down the road, she found out, one, he wasn't licensed. Two, the work that he had done, suddenly they started having problems, and the tile wasn't prepared properly. There wasn't a substrate underneath, so all of a sudden they had water getting behind the tile. They had water dripping down their walls. They had mold. They had water leaking into downstairs, and a lot of that could have been prevented if they had found out if he was licensed ahead of time. And then also he told them that they didn't need permits, and so that too could have prevented any issues. If he had needed permits, he would have had to have the inspections done. So really, really be careful about who you let in your house. And also, I hear this over and over again, and I know I would fall for this too. Yeah, your friend or your uncle or whatever refers someone and says they're great. That doesn't mean that you don't have to do all this due diligence and like really find out how great they are. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up unless you have any questions for me. And feel free also, if you're watching this in the replay, go ahead and ask me some questions in the comments, and I will try to get back and answer them. So good luck, guys. Stay safe, and be careful who you let in your house. Make sure, don't feel embarrassed about asking for any of these things. This is all standard, especially if you're hiring someone to work on your house. You don't want to be stuck with a big repair bill or major damage to your house that then you have to go and hire another contractor and go through the process all over again, which I don't want you to have to do. I wouldn't want to do. So take care. Thanks for joining me this afternoon, and I'll look for your comments. Bye.